The economies of countries have often been classified into two groups: the industrialized nations with mature economies and high levels of development, and the developing world, basically everyone else. But let's say that your country is growing fast and your quality of life keeps on improving. It is not as advanced as Norway yet, but suddenly the label of developing country seems vague and even unfair. Newly industrialized countries is an economic classification that can define this group of countries, which are still developing but are closer to achieving that goal. There is not a total consensus on which nations are NICs, but most economists agree that there are 9 at this point in time: China, India, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, Turkey, South Africa, Brazil, and Mexico. A newly industrialized country, or NIC, is a developing economy that has transitioned from being based on agriculture or extraction of raw materials to being primarily based on the production of manufactured goods. These nations have taken important steps towards industrialization and might be considered as developed economies at some point in the near future. Sometimes these economies are also referred to as emerging markets. The Tertiary Education Trust Fund is determined to ensure that Nigeria joins this exclusive club and emerges as a newly developed country. The primary strategy to achieve this is the diligent and persistent application of research and development. Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, the Executive Secretary of TETFund, is the inspiration behind this paradigm shift. He was quick to diagnose that the notion that the innovation capabilities of developing economies can leapfrog and catch up with developed countries without an investment in research is an unfortunate but persistent view, which is likely to prolong dependency on external agencies. In his expert view, there is no shortcut to development via science and technology other than strong public policies and state support, or oriented and directed research and development using the triple helix model.
When I came in 2014, I made a case for institutionalization of what R&D, research and development. And that was when, more recently, the National Universities Commission, the NBTE, NCCE were working together in partnership with industry, Economic Summit Group, Manufacturers Association Nigeria, TETFund. We formed the triple helix model of working together. And even within public service, we are reaching out. We signed MOU with Federal Ministry of Science and Tech. We've signed with NIDA and so on and so forth. We are moving for PTDF. We signed an MOU with PTDF. We are looking at agencies that we can share knowledge. For too long, part of the problem of our country is everybody operates in an island to himself or herself.
TETFund is bringing the academia, government, and industry together to recalibrate Nigeria's economy and move it from a circle of poverty to a circle of wealth. Newly industrialized countries can bring about an increase of stabilization in a country's social and economic status, allowing the people living in these nations to begin to experience better living conditions and better lifestyles. Let's take a closer look at some of the characteristics of a newly developed nation to benchmark where Nigeria will be once the paradigm shift is fully implemented. Economic growth. Over the years, Nigeria will keep a constant and significant economic growth, often at a fast pace. The per capita income, that's the average income of the population, will also continue increasing, although not necessarily at the same rate as the overall economy. Urban population. A big part of the population has gradually left the rural areas and relocated to the cities, looking for better job opportunities. But with the institutionalization of research and development, we can have a more productive urban population and see our cities better suited to absorbing growth of up to 10 or even 20 million people without excessive strain on the infrastructure. Improving standards of living. The vast majority of the population will enjoy a higher standard of living. As the economy grows, the inhabitants will see improvements in infrastructure, healthcare, education, and many more areas. However, it is a long process, and it often takes years before the general population actually feels the advances. Sectors of production. With R&D, the main economic activity in Nigeria will be manufacturing. Industrial production is oriented to exports. The profit from exports is then reinvested in the local economy, which results in domestic business and wages gradually growing. As more wealth becomes available, internal demand rises, which encourages even more industrial production. This is described as a circle of wealth, a sharp contrast from where Nigeria is right now. Exporting raw materials and using the proceeds of them to purchase finished products that keeps us in a circle of poverty. Having already completed key aspects of its assignment, the TETFund Research and Development Standing Committee is ready for the next step in the institutionalization of R&D.
The global engagement we are embarking on now is adding value to the existing report. Let me firstly say that I'm happy to report, let me put it that way, that we have nothing less than 34 reports, individual reports that has been generated, and these reports are not the same thing. They are reports that we characterize in two ways. The first one has to do with the Research and Development Standing Committee report, which are purely the outcome of their engagement, about 26 reports. Then we have what we call the Establishment Framework report for the National Research and Development Foundation. Under those reports, we're going to be saying the National Master Plan for R&D. It's ready, and we have the 5-year strategic plan for R&D in this country. It's ready. We have what we call the project information document that is actually tied towards achieving the standard of the World Bank and the United Nations. So that's going to be the marketing document. That's going to be the discussion document because it contains the brief. We've moved on to now have the profile. There's a profile that we develop for people to see who are the contributors, who are the people that have worked tirelessly around this particular assignment. Moving forward, we've just come up with what we call the cross-cutting chart. I will speak more on the cross-cutting issue. And that map has actually shown us the interconnectivity and the synergy among all the groups. So with all this report, like you said, what next? We are going to continue the global engagement because we want to believe that we can still be adding value. And I said that one will take us to December, pretty much this year. On the other side of it, the convener, ES of TETFund, Professor S. Bogoro, is not resting. It's actually being challenged and being inspired every day to make sure that we actually get to the finish line on time. Because if we continuously be telling you that we have time bound.
But how do we reach this promised land flowing with milk and honey? The establishment of a National Research and Development Foundation is a critical phase, the journey of which began in September of 2020 when the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, through the Minister of State, inaugurated the TETFund Standing Committee on Research and Development. With a documented master plan successfully drawn up by the 13 thematic groups of the RDSC, another milestone was recently reached when TETFund inaugurated the Committee on the TETFund National Research and Development Foundation. The event took place at the TETFund conference room, where Professor Bogoro appreciated and acknowledged the profound long-term support the fund has received from the Federal Ministry of Education.
Architect Sonny Echano a man that we all know is a thorough professional at the highest level, currently the president, Nigeria Institute of Architects of Nigeria. The permanent secretary is representing the Ministry of Education, the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu. The chairman of the NRDF Draft Bill Committee that has just been introduced, along with very distinguished members of the committee. But permit me just repeat for the sake of the respect of the position he's holding in respect of this exercise. Professor Awalu Yadudu, and we know that because it is a legal exercise in the most of it, putting up a draft bill, don't be surprised that the lawyers clearly outnumber others in the committee. It was so designed. And I think when in a committee of 11, you have two profound senior advocates, you know that there is a purpose for it. Because seated next to the chairman is the one and only CJC Dakas, very cerebral lawyer and scholar. Somebody said, how did we pick those two cerebral guys working? We said we wanted the best. And honestly, we want to thank you for obliging us, accepting to do this job. And of course, the others have been introduced, but I am happy that we have a lawyer as representing the Ministry of Education, the Director of Legal. Otherwise, initially when I wasn't sure whether it's a female, I thought Professor Galadanchi would be the only female. Who knows, we may have a female from the Federal Ministry of Justice and Attorney General's office until we get it. He assured me that he has approved. It's just a protocol. Between today and tomorrow, it will be sorted out, and I believe within 2 days, at the most, they will be joining you people physically. There are a few other comments that I know will make before, including the fact that, after a number of documents that we made available to the committee, it will be left for them to, maybe they can give themselves 2 days to study the document, especially for those that are not. A number of the members are RDSC members. So it is their document they package for the establishment of NRDF, National Research and Development Foundation. But for the others, I think they need it. So if we give maybe another, that's just my suggestion. The committee will sit a few hours, 1 or 2 hours after this, and agree on some things, I imagine. And maybe if they take maybe 2 days to allow people go through the document, and by which time they would have, the chairman and key members that he gets would have worked out strategies on how to proceed. By which time, we expect that the Ministry of Justice would have sent us the 2 names. That is part of the reason, Mr. Chair, that I thought we may adopt that. Having said that, I want to appreciate all other members of the committee. Of course, here they are arranged. I know Professor Galadanchi, by the way, she's at SDC, and I know that she's been involved deeply in the Centers of Excellence, especially the capacity building training and so on. And we want to appreciate you. I think you are one of those that remind us that women refuse to be in the background and that they have all the capacity for leadership. Prof, we're very proud of you. He's a professor of medicine and one of the very best. Yes. NUC represented by the head of legal division. And of course, we've mentioned the director legal, of course, of the ministry. And my brother from the office of the SGF, I want to thank you. I was very sure that you would not, we got the official letter from the SGF nominating you. Thank you for coming. I want to thank you for coming. And of course, the others are my staff. Having said that, I want to say you will formally hear from the Honorable Minister, represented by the Permanent Secretary. And the key things that matter, you will hear from him. And you will understand very clearly after his remarks, it's the address from the ministry, because an executive bill from this thing, well, going to the Federal Executive Council emanates from the ministry. And for us at TETFund, with my directors and management and everybody, you will agree that we've enjoyed the support and cooperation of the Ministry of Education. And he personifies it. Honestly, let me say this to his credit. Yes, the PAMSEC has believed in what we're doing. And he has said so to me at personal level. And I just sent him a message last night in respect of the exercise he's about to perform. And inhesitantly, he replied in the affirmative. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you. Yes. Having said this, I wouldn't want to take more time. I should actually have apologized that I noticed the committee. Oh, yes. The committee members arrive dead on time. I respect the discipline amongst the members of the committee. I really appreciate that. To me, there is no better demonstration of patriotism by Nigerians when they are called upon. And that's why some of us believe that in the face of some of the challenges that we see, Nigeria sometimes we will see it wobbling, but suddenly it finds its rhythm. I'm sure that is the case, whatever may be there. While the military are fighting insecurity, while the politicians are addressing the larger issues, including constitutional amendment, we, the intellectuals, we must do the right thing to remind them that we are there and that we can chart the path of this nation. That's why we ask you to join us in this exercise. By the way, last but not the least, very specially, let me acknowledge the fact that he's not physically here, but he's right looking at us and we're looking at him. The chairman, FinTech Africa, Dr. Segun Aina. We want to sincerely appreciate you. When I called him the other day, some few days ago, and he was transiting between Canada and US, and he said, "Oh, Prof, I wish I knew this, I would have canceled my trip." Sir, we want to thank you. He's a profound industrialist. He's been in the banking sector and the development sector like a colossus. I know what he's doing for the University of Ibadan, the think tank group, that he is our chairman and I am a member. We've worked together. He believes in our country. He believes in what we can do as intellectuals, particularly our universities that are, as we know their role. Dr. Aina, thank you very much. Having said that, let me finally appreciate the directors, management, and all staff of TETFund for joining us. Sir, the Permanent Secretary, sir, I have the privilege and honor to invite you to make your address and proceed to formally inaugurate this committee.
The Minister of Education was represented at the inauguration by the ministry's permanent secretary, architect Sonny Echono, who encouraged the committee to fashion out a legal framework that will define the place of research and development as the standard for measuring the strength and sustainability of Nigeria's GDP. He went on to spell out the terms of reference for the committee.
Our national development aspirations through a robust mechanism to promote research, innovation, and their application to solving national problems. The task of preparing a draft executive bill is not an easy one. It requires the best to do it, and that is why some of our very best and tested lawyers, academics, and industry leaders have been called upon to do this assignment. On behalf of the Honorable Minister of Education, I wish to sincerely thank you for sparing your time out of your otherwise very busy schedules to answer this national call. Permit me to say that the nation has high expectations from the outcome of your work because the Federal Ministry of Education has decided to demonstrate that we house the historically acknowledged leaders of research, being our universities, who along with our polytechnics and colleges of education hold the task of defining the path of Nigeria's knowledge economy, without which we cannot be competitive at the global stage. It is expected that your committee will fashion out the legal framework that will define the place of research and development, what we call R&D, as the main parameter for measuring the strength and sustainability of our GDP, which size adds up to nothing without the injection of knowledge through problem-solving research. I will have the honor of presenting to you the terms of reference of your committee, which includes to study the master plan document for the establishment of NRDF in Nigeria with a view to understanding its content vis-a-vis the committee's tasks. 2, to review the current enabling law, if any, on research and development in Nigeria with a view to proposing a draft legislation to the National Assembly on the establishment of the NRDF. 3, to propose areas of cross-cutting and cross-sectorial collaboration with relevant ministries, departments and agencies, the private sector and industry on the establishment of the NRDF, and to identify any other salient issues which may be necessary for the overall success of the NRDF in Nigeria. You've been told there are 11 members of this committee, drawn principally from the legal profession, but notably also from the academia, from the government, and also the private sector. Members have already been introduced. So on behalf of the Honorable Minister, I am pleased to formally inaugurate the committee made up of 11 members to work for a period of 4 weeks and to produce a report to be considered by the Federal Ministry of Education for transmission to the Federal Executive Council and thereafter to the National Assembly, which will be promulgated or formulated as a bill for Mr. President's assent. We are confident that this will be done expeditiously and to the highest standards of quality that the membership of this committee represents. I thank you very much for your attention, and I say happy congratulations.
The inaugurated committee is comprised of the following persons: Professor Awalu Yadudu, Faculty of Law, Bayero University, as the chairman. Professor C.J. Dakas, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Faculty of Law, University of Jos. Professor Hadiza Galadanchi, College of Health Sciences, Bayero University, Kano. Dr. Shagun Aino, Chairman, FinTech Africa, and member of the RDSC. Barrister Grace Ekanem, Director, Legal Services, Federal Ministry of Education, Abuja. Barrister Emmanuel Akisa, Representative of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Barrister Pascal Eruaga, Head, Legal Division, National Universities Commission. There will also be 2 representatives of the Attorney General of the Federation at the Ministry of Justice. Rounding up the list are Dr. Mustafa Ayo Popola, Technical Assistant to the Executive Secretary on R&D, also a member of the RDSC, and Barrister Khalil Abdul, Head of the Legal Unit at TETFund, who serves as the Secretary.
I would like to commend the ES and the Minister of Education for bringing together a team that is very, very inclusive of all talents, skills, and skill sets. 20 years from now, those who have come after us will look back as we are looking back at the inception of the TETFund. We hope we will be able to propose something that will be to the bill and also to the expectation of the team that has put the documents together and also the nation expecting research and development as a foundation.
No matter what our collective ambitions are as a nation, we don't have to watch as another year goes by with Nigeria being no closer to our goals than it was last year. We can move from where we are to where we want to go. Nigeria can become a country that has a mature and sophisticated economy with advanced technological infrastructure, as well as a diverse industrial service sector. Nigerian citizens can enjoy access to quality healthcare and higher education. And that is the paradigm shift.